Police tackle black professor on campus, unaware she's FBI profiler analyzing them. Midtown University. Tuesday afternoon. Dr. Keisha Marlowe, a black woman in her late 30s with perfectly twisted locks framing her deep brown face, was walking across the quad toward her office, completely unaware that the next 17 minutes would prove, once again, that a black woman with 3 degrees and a PhD can still be seen as a threat simply for existing. What the campus police officer watching her didn't know? She was an FBI criminal profiler on sabbatical, teaching a semester course on implicit bias in law enforcement. That ignorance, that assumption based on skin color, would cost him his career, his pension, and his freedom. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the brick pathways as students hurried between classes. Dr. Marlowe carried a worn leather messenger bag filled with research papers and her laptop, the same bag she'd carried through Howard University undergrad, through Spelman Graduate School, through Quantico training. Her navy blazer was tailored perfectly. Her natural hair, which had taken her 32 years to fully embrace after a lifetime of being told it was unprofessional, was pulled back with a silk scarf her grandmother had given her before passing. The same grandmother who'd survived Jim Crow, who'd taught her that dignity wasn't granted. It was inherent. She'd already taught 2 classes that day. Her students, diverse, engaged, hungry to understand the psychology behind criminal behavior, had asked penetrating questions about racial profiling. The irony of what was about to happen wasn't lost on the universe. As she walked, she felt it. That familiar prickle on the back of her neck. The awareness that comes from a lifetime of being watched, followed, monitored. She didn't turn around. She'd learned not to make sudden movements, but she knew. Someone was tracking her across campus like she was a suspect instead of faculty. Like she was a threat instead of a woman who dedicated her life to understanding why people like whoever was following her saw people like her as dangerous. Officer Brandon Mitchell had been campus police for 6 years. He'd been watching Dr. Marlowe for 3 minutes, radioing his partner that there was a suspicious person near the faculty buildings. In his report later, the one that would be torn apart by investigators, he'd claimed she looked out of place and was moving furtively. The reality? She was walking while black, existing while black, breathing while black on a campus where she'd earned the right to be, where her name was literally on the door of her office. Dr. Keisha Marlowe, visiting professor of forensic psychology. She reached her building, pulled out her key card. That's when she heard it. "Excuse me. Excuse me. I need to see some identification." Dr. Marlowe stopped, closed her eyes, took one deep breath. Not again, not today, but yes, today, always today. She turned slowly, hands visible, heart rate controlled through years of training. Officer Mitchell approached, hand resting casually on his belt near his weapon. His partner, Officer Davis, flanked her from the side. Standard intimidation positioning. She recognized it from her textbooks, from her case files, from the training videos she'd analyzed 1,000 times. "I'm faculty," she said, her voice dropping into that professional register every black person learns. Code switching. Making herself smaller, less threatening, more palatable. The exhausting performance of existing. "I teach here." "I didn't ask if you teach here. I asked for identification." Mitchell's voice carried that edge, that assumption of authority that comes from never having it questioned. That tone that said he'd already decided she was lying, already decided she didn't belong, already decided that a black woman at a predominantly white institution must be a problem to solve. If you're a black person watching this, you already know where this is going, don't you? How many times have you been questioned in your own workplace, in your own neighborhood, in your own life? Drop a comment, but first, you need to hear what this person didn't know about who they were messing with. Dr. Marlowe reached for her bag, slowly. "My ID's in, hands where I can see them." And just like that, the situation that could have been resolved with a simple conversation, with basic human respect, with the courtesy extended to white faculty every single day without question, became something else entirely. Became another chapter in the endless story of black people having to prove they have the right to exist in spaces they've earned. Have you experienced this? The assumption, the escalation, the exhaustion of constantly proving yourself. Comment your story below. This is a safe space. We see you. She raised her hands. 23 students walking past stopped to watch. Some pulled out phones. A few white students looked uncomfortable, but kept walking. That complicity of silence, that choice to not get involved, because it doesn't affect you directly. 3 black students stood frozen, recognition and fear in their eyes. They'd had the talk too. They knew how these situations ended. They'd seen the videos, been to the vigils. I'm reaching for my faculty ID, Dr. Marlowe said, each word measured, controlled. Inside, she was calculating, profiling, ironically, the men who were profiling her. Mitchell, trigger-happy, aggressive posturing, seeking validation through authority. Davis, follower, uncomfortable but complicit, won't intervene. Threat level, high. De-escalation probability, low. They'd already decided who she was. Slowly, Mitchell commanded, as if she didn't know. As if she hadn't lived this her entire life. She pulled out her wallet. Her faculty ID was right there, laminated and official, with her credentials listed clearly. Dr. Keisha Marlowe, Ph.D., Forensic Psychology. She held it up. Mitchell barely glanced at it. This could be fake. What are you doing in this building? And that's when Dr. Marlowe knew. This wasn't about ID. This was about something else. Something older. Something that cost Emmett Till his life for existing. Something that put Central Park 5 in prison for existing. Something that killed Breonna Taylor in her own home for existing. This was about a black woman refusing to stay in the place someone had decided she belonged. And that place wasn't a faculty building at a prestigious university. That place wasn't anywhere near power, authority, or respect. What Officer Mitchell didn't know, what he was about to discover in the most devastating way possible, was that the woman he decided to profile, to intimidate, to treat like a criminal, wasn't just any professor. She was the person who'd literally written the training manual on implicit bias that his department had failed to implement. She was currently conducting a federally funded research study on racial profiling in campus police departments. And she'd been recording everything, as she did every day, after too many incidents just like this one, since the moment he'd called out to her. The next 15 minutes would become a case study, a news story, a reckoning. But first, it would get so much worse. I'm going to need you to come with us to verify your identity, Mitchell said, reaching for her arm. Dr. Marlowe stepped back. I've shown you my faculty ID. My office is right there, room 304. My name is on the door. I have a class in 40 minutes. What exactly am I being detained for? You're not being detained, Davis chimed in, finally speaking. We're just asking questions, Dr. Marlowe finished, while preventing me from leaving, while 2 officers surround me, while your hands rest near your weapons. That's detention. I know because I've testified in federal court about exactly this scenario. A small crowd was forming now. More students. A few faculty members pausing at a distance, watching with that academic curiosity that doesn't quite translate into intervention. Dr. Marlowe clocked every face, every phone recording, every witness who would later claim they didn't know what to do. You're being very aggressive right now, Mitchell said. And there it was. The word that gets used when black women refuse to shrink, when they advocate for themselves, when they exist with the same confidence and authority that white men carry like birthright. Aggressive, threatening, difficult. Meanwhile, she'd done nothing but stand there and ask legitimate questions in a calm voice while 2 armed men interrogated her for the crime of walking to her office. Here's what Dr. Marlowe was thinking. What every black person thinks in these moments. Do I make a scene and confirm their stereotypes? Do I stay calm and let them humiliate me? Do I code switch harder? Or do I stand my ground and risk this escalating? She'd had the talk. Not the one about birds and bees, but the other one. The one her parents gave her at 12 about how to interact with police. Hands visible, no sudden movements. Yes, sir, and no. Sir, even when they're wrong, especially when they're wrong, comply and live. She'd watched her father, a man with 2 master's degrees, get pulled over 17 times in 3 years and say yes, sir, to officers young enough to be his students. She'd seen the exhaustion in his eyes, the dignity he maintained while swallowing rage. But what Mitchell and Davis didn't see? The federal badge in her wallet, the bureau credentials that gave her authority that superseded theirs, the phone in her bag that was currently live streaming to a secure server tagged with GPS coordinates and biometric data, the 20 years of law enforcement experience that let her predict exactly what they'd do next. I need you to empty your bag, Mitchell demanded. Do you have probable cause for a search? Dr. Marlowe asked. Because I'm a faculty member on a campus where I'm employed, entering a building I have keycard access to and I've provided identification. What crime do you suspect me of? How many of you just felt your blood pressure rise? That's recognition, isn't it? Drop or if you've lived this. We're not alone. Ma'am, I'm not going to ask again. Mitchell's voice dropped into that dangerous register. That tone that says compliance isn't requested, it's demanded. That tone that comes right before things get physical. A white professor, Dr. Richard Hammond, from the English department, walked past, smiled at the officers, and entered the building with his coffee and his Emperor tote bag without a single question, without a single glance at his ID, without a single moment of his day disrupted by the assumption that he didn't belong. Dr. Marlowe watched him disappear inside. She looked at Mitchell. Did you stop him? That's different. How? Mitchell's jaw tightened. Davis shifted uncomfortably. The students watching knew exactly how it was different. The black students, anyway. The white ones were getting an education. I'm calling my department chair, Dr. Marlowe said, reaching for her phone. Put your hands up, Mitchell shouted. Davis's hand moved to his weapon. 20 phones captured the moment. The moment when a black woman reaching for her phone became a threat. When a simple phone call became grounds for potential violence. When existing became resistance. Dr. Marlowe froze. Her training kicked in, not her FBI training, her other training. The training every black parent gives their child. The training that says your life matters less than a white person's fear. The training that costs black people their dignity 1,000 times just to stay alive once. It's my phone, she said, her voice still controlled, but something shifting underneath. Something that sounded like ancestral rage wrapped in professional composure. In my blazer pocket. I'm going to reach for it slowly, with 2 fingers. Keep your hands where I can see them. Mitchell moved closer, invading her space, using his size as intimidation. Standard dominance display. Page 47 of her own textbook. A black security guard from the library, Marcus Johnson, who'd watched this unfold while on break, stepped forward. Officers, that's Dr. Marlowe. She teaches here. I've seen her ID before. Mitchell didn't even look at him. Sir, step back. Marcus's face showed what Dr. Marlowe felt, the special exhaustion of black people trying to protect each other while white authority refuses to listen. The exhaustion of knowing your testimony doesn't count. Your witnessing doesn't matter. Your word is suspect simply because of your melanin. I've been here 6 years, Marcus tried again, urgency creeping in. She's faculty. Please, just check with administration. I won't tell you again, Davis said, hand still near his weapon. The implicit threat clear, help her and become a target yourself. That's how complicity gets enforced. That's how witnesses become silent. Marcus stepped back, phone out, recording. Smart. Protecting what he could. Dr. Marlowe made a decision. She slowly reached for her phone, 2 fingers, moving like she was defusing a bomb instead of exercising basic human rights. She pulled it out, unlocked it, started to dial. Mitchell snatched it from her hand. The crowd gasped. That moment, that violation, rippled through every black person watching. The moment when officer safety becomes, I can take whatever I want from you. The moment when authority becomes abuse. Hey, Dr. Marlowe's composure cracked for the first time. You have no legal right to take my property. I'm not under arrest. I haven't committed a crime. You're violating my Fourth Amendment. You're resisting, Mitchell said, and the word hung there like a loaded weapon. Resisting. The magic word that justifies everything. That turns victims into criminals. That absolves officers and condemns black people. Sandra Bland was resisting. George Floyd was resisting. Breonna Taylor's boyfriend was resisting by defending his home from unannounced intruders. I'm not resisting. I'm asserting my constitutional rights. Dr. Marlowe's voice carried across the quad now. No more code switching. No more making herself smaller. Done. I'm a federal agent conducting research on campus police departments. I'm a PhD who teaches here. I'm a black woman who has every right to be exactly where I am. And you're violating every protocol, every law, and every standard of human decency. The words federal agent should have changed everything, should have made Mitchell pause, should have triggered some recognition that he'd made a catastrophic miscalculation. Instead, he laughed. Federal agent? He turned to Davis, incredulous. You hear this? Davis's face showed doubt for the first time, a flicker of uncertainty. Maybe they'd gotten this wrong. Maybe. But he said nothing, just like the white faculty members watching from windows, just like the administrators who'd been called but hadn't come out yet, just like every silent witness who chooses comfort over justice, who chooses not to get involved because it's easier, safer, less complicated. That silence, that complicity, that's how these things keep happening. Have you ever been so calm outside while screaming inside? I'm done with this, Mitchell said. Turn around. Hands behind your back. For what? Dr. Marlowe demanded. What am I being arrested for? Trespassing, resisting, disorderly conduct. I work here. Turn around now, or this gets worse. Dr. Marlowe stood her ground. 20 years of training, of standing in rooms with serial killers and terrorists and corrupt officials, and she wasn't going to be intimidated by a campus cop on a power trip. But she also knew the statistics. She knew how many black people, how many black women died in custody. She knew Sandra Bland's name, knew Breonna's name, knew Rekia Boyd's name, knew the list was too long and getting longer. She thought about her mother who'd marched with John Lewis, her grandmother who'd survived worse than this and still believed in dignity, her nieces and nephews who needed her to come home, who needed her to survive this moment so she could keep teaching them how to navigate a world that saw them as threats before it saw them as human. She turned around. The moment her back was to them, Mitchell grabbed her arm, rough, aggressive, meant to hurt, wrenched it behind her back. The crowd erupted in shouts. That's excessive. Someone yelled. She's complying. Another voice. You're hurting her. Marcus shouted, moving forward again. Dr. Marlowe gasped as pain shot through her shoulder. Mitchell twisted harder. Davis finally joined in, grabbing her other arm. They forced her down, face first onto the concrete pathway. Her cheek scraped against rough stone. Her locks fell across her face. Her glasses skidded away. This is what compliance gets you when you're black. This is what just cooperate means when cooperation was never going to be enough. This is what happens when your very existence is perceived as resistance. Students were crying now, shouting, surrounding them with phones recording every angle. A white student, brave, finally, pushed through. Stop. You're going to hurt her. Back up or you'll be arrested too, Davis barked. The threat worked. The crowd stayed back, watched, recorded, but didn't intervene. Because that's what happens. We document injustice, but we hesitate to stop it. We get the video for later, but not the intervention for now. Mitchell's knee pressed into Dr. Marlowe's back. She couldn't breathe properly. The weight, the position, the terror of it. How many times had she seen this in videos? How many times had she analyzed the medical reports, the autopsies, the way positional asphyxia kills people while officers claim they're just restraining someone? Can you see your mother, sister/brother in this? Yourself? Badge, Wallet, Dr. Marlowe gasped, face pressed against concrete that generations of her ancestors had literally built, universities they weren't allowed to attend while they constructed the buildings. FBI credentials? Sure you are, Mitchell grunted, pulling her arms tighter. The cuffs clicked on. Too tight, meant to hurt, meant to humiliate, meant to remind her that all her degrees, all her achievements, all her excellence meant nothing against the assumption that she was a criminal. He hauled her to her feet. Rough, aggressive. Her blazer torn at the shoulder, blood on her cheek from where they'd ground her face into concrete. Her carefully maintained locks tangled and disheveled. Her dignity stripped in front of 24 witnesses who would remember this day for the rest of their lives. This is what it looks like when the system works exactly as designed. Dr. Marlowe's bag had spilled. Papers everywhere. Her laptop. Her research. And there, visible to anyone paying attention, the corner of her FBI badge wallet, partially open, the eagle and shield catching sunlight. A black student, Janelle, from Dr. Marlowe's Tuesday lecture, saw it, picked it up, opened it fully. Oh my God, Janelle breathed. She's telling the truth. She's FBI. She held it up. Hands shaking. The badge. The credentials. Special Agent Dr. Keisha Marlowe, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Behavioral Analysis Unit. Mitchell glanced at it. His face should have shown recognition. Should have shown horror at what he'd just done. Should have shown something. Instead, those are probably fake. You can buy anything online. That response, that doubling down, that refusal to admit error, even when confronted with proof, that's the moment everything became irreversible. That's the moment when a mistake became a crime. When ignorance became willful misconduct. When this stopped being a story about bias and became a story about a reckoning. Because Dr. Keisha Marlowe wasn't just FBI, she was currently on loan to the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. She was literally in the middle of a federal investigation into excessive force and racial profiling in university police departments. She'd been investigating Midtown University for 3 months. Officer Mitchell had just assaulted a federal agent. On camera. In front of witnesses, while she was conducting an official investigation. And worse, so much worse for him, her body camera had been recording since she entered campus. Audio and video, every word, every violation, every civil rights breach, live streaming directly to the FBI field office downtown, where 17 agents had just watched one of their own get brutalized. When was the last time you had to prove you deserved to exist in a space? Share this with someone who doesn't understand living while black. Mitchell started walking Dr. Marlowe toward the campus police station, still cuffed, still bleeding. The crowd followed, chanting now, "Let her go! Let her go!" Davis's phone rang. He looked at the screen, looked at Mitchell. "It's Chief Reynolds. Ignore it," Mitchell said. "We're processing a trespasser." The phone kept ringing. Marcus's phone rang. Janelle's phone rang. The university's emergency alert system pinged on every student's phone. All campus police stand down. Federal agents approaching quad. Do not interfere. Mitchell's radio crackled. Unit 12, this is dispatch. Stop your current action immediately. Chief Reynolds is en route. FBI is en route. Stand down. Acknowledge. Mitchell hesitated. For the first time, doubt crept across his face. Not remorse, not yet, but the creeping realization that maybe, possibly, he'd miscalculated. Unit 12. Acknowledge. Acknowledged, he finally said. But he didn't uncuff Dr. Marlowe, didn't apologize, didn't show an ounce of recognition that he'd just destroyed his life. 3 black SUVs pulled up to the quad, lights flashing. Doors opened. Federal agents emerged, 14 of them, tactical gear, FBI emblazoned across their vests. They moved with purpose, with precision, with the kind of authority that can't be questioned or dismissed or ignored. The lead agent, Supervisory Special Agent Marcus Thompson, a black man in his 50s who'd worked with Dr. Marlowe for 12 years, walked straight to Mitchell. "Take your hands off my agent." "Now?" Mitchell's face went white. Actually white. The color of someone realizing they just stepped off a cliff they didn't see coming. She said she was. FBI? She said she was FBI? Because she is. And you assaulted her. On camera. While she was conducting a federal civil rights investigation, Thompson's voice was cold, clinical. The voice of someone about to ruin your entire existence. "Keys. Uncuff her. Do it now." Mitchell's hands shook as he uncuffed Dr. Marlowe. She pulled away from him immediately, stumbled, and was caught by Agent Thompson. Another agent, Maria Rodriguez, Keisha's partner, moved to her side, checking her injuries with gentle hands and fury in her eyes. "You okay?" Maria whispered. "I will be," Dr. Marlowe said, though her voice shook now. Now that it was safe to shake, now that she didn't have to perform strength to survive, now that she could let the trauma of the last 17 minutes hit her body. Thompson turned to the crowd of students, his voice carrying. "My name is Supervisory Special Agent Marcus Thompson. The woman these officers just assaulted is Special Agent Dr. Keisha Marlowe. She holds a PhD in forensic psychology. She graduated top of her class at Quantico. She solved 47 cases involving serial offenders. She's testified before Congress on criminal justice reform. She spent the last 3 months embedded at this university investigating patterns of racial discrimination in your campus police department." He let that sink in. Watched Mitchell and Davis process it. Watched the blood drain from their faces. Everything that happened here was recorded. Body camera, surveillance feeds, 23 cell phones, audio and video sent in real time to our field office. Every word, every action, every violation of Dr. Marlowe's civil rights, every violation of federal law, every instance of excessive force, unlawful detention, assault on a federal officer, and obstruction of a federal investigation. Thompson pulled out his own cuffs. "Officer Brandon Mitchell, you're under arrest for assault on a federal officer, violation of civil rights, under color of law, unlawful detention, and obstruction of justice." Officer James Davis, same charges. You have the right to remain silent. The crowd was silent now, witnessing something that happens too rarely, consequences in real time. Accountability at the moment of violation instead of months later, years later, never. As Thompson read them their rights, Dr. Marlowe finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, but carried weight across the quad. The weight of 400 years. The weight of every black person who'd been brutalized without cameras, without badges, without power. The weight of Sandra and Brianna, and Philando and Tamir and Emmett and countless others who didn't survive their encounters. My name is Dr. Keisha Marlowe. I earned my bachelor's from Howard University, my master's from Spelman, my PhD from Georgetown. I served 20 years with the FBI. I've dedicated my life to understanding criminal behavior and reforming systems that disproportionately harm black communities. She walked toward Mitchell, who was now in cuffs himself, experiencing for the first time what he'd inflicted on countless others. She got close enough that only he could see the tears of rage in her eyes. I didn't have to be FBI to deserve respect. I didn't have to have a PhD to deserve dignity. I didn't have to be exceptional to deserve basic human rights. Every black person you've ever stopped, every black student you've profiled, every black faculty member you've questioned, they all deserve better than what you gave them. They all deserve better than what you gave me. She stepped back. You're going to prison. Not just you. Everyone in your department who enabled this culture. Everyone who trained you to see black people as threats. Everyone who looked the other way when you violated people's rights. This ends today. Have you ever seen a racist face consequences in real time? How did it feel? This is what accountability looks like. Comment below. CTA #5. If you're feeling that satisfaction, that finally, Consequences? Hit that like button. Share this. Let the world see racism has a price tag. Immediate consequences. By the time Dr. Marlowe was taken to the hospital to document her injuries, facial lacerations, shoulder strain, bruised ribs, psychological trauma, Mitchell and Davis were in federal custody. Their homes were being searched. Their files were being seized. Their entire careers were being dismantled, case by case, stop by stop, violation by violation. Within 6 hours, local news had the story. Within 12 hours, national news. Within 24 hours, the full 17-minute video of a black FBI agent being brutalized on a university campus, had 14 million views. The university's president held an emergency press conference, tried to get ahead of it, talked about isolated incident and additional training and thorough investigation, all the phrases that mean please don't sue us. Too late. The Department of Justice announced a full civil rights investigation into Midtown University's police department the next morning. Not the we'll look into it kind. The kind with subpoenas and forensic audits and federal oversight. Dr. Marlowe's 3 months of embedded research became Exhibit A, her documentation of 247 separate incidents of racial profiling. Her analysis of stop data showing black students were detained at 17 times the rate of white students, despite no difference in rule violations. Her interviews with 43 black faculty and staff members who'd experienced similar harassment. Her meticulous, irrefutable evidence of systemic racism. Mitchell and Davis were fired within 48 hours. No severance, no pension, no letters of recommendation. The police union tried to fight it, claimed due process. The video played at the hearing. They withdrew their complaint. Federal charges followed. 3 counts of deprivation of rights under color of law, 18 U 242. 2 counts of assault on a federal officer, 18 U 111. 1 count of obstruction of justice, 18 U 1505. Combined maximum sentence, 47 years. But the consequences spread wider. Campus Police Chief Thomas Reynolds, who'd received 17 complaints about Mitchell over 6 years and done nothing, resigned under pressure. His second-in-command, who'd signed off on Mitchell's glowing performance reviews, was terminated. The entire training division was dissolved and rebuilt. The university's Board of Trustees held emergency sessions. Black students and faculty who'd been organizing for years, demanding change and being told to be patient, suddenly had the administration's full attention. Funny how video of federal agents arresting campus police will do that. Do you think the punishment fit the crime? Or should there have been more? What would you have done? Let's discuss in comments, respectfully. These stories matter because they're real. They happen every day to black people in America. Subscribe so you never miss a story. Hit the bell. Join a community that refuses to let racism go unchecked. We're building accountability. 6 weeks later, Mitchell and Davis pleaded guilty to avoid trial. Mitchell got 9 years federal prison. Davis got 5 years for his role in cooperation. Their mugshots, the fear and humiliation in their eyes, became the image that accompanied every article about accountability for racist policing. Mitchell tried to apologize, posted a video from jail, tears streaming, talking about how he was learning and growing and didn't mean to cause harm and was sorry for my actions. Dr. Marlowe responded in an interview with 60 Minutes, "I don't accept apologies that come after consequences. I don't accept remorse that only appears after arrest." For 6 years, he brutalized black students. 17 complaints. 17 opportunities to learn and grow and change. He chose not to. He's not sorry he was racist. He's sorry he got caught. The civil lawsuit, filed by Dr. Marlowe and 23 other black faculty, staff, and students, settled for $47 million. The university admitted no wrongdoing, they never do. But they paid. Dr. Marlowe donated her entire $12 million portion to scholarships for black students studying criminal justice and civil rights law. "I want the next generation to have the weapons I had," she said at the scholarship announcement. Education, credentials, power. Not because they should need those things to be treated with basic respect, they shouldn't, but because this system doesn't reform itself. We have to reform it. And that requires Black people in positions of power, authority, and influence. Other victims came forward. Students Mitchell had harassed, faculty he'd profiled. The stories were heartbreaking and familiar. A Black chemistry professor stopped while carrying lab equipment to his own classroom. A Black student tackled for fitting the description of a suspect who was 60 pounds heavier and 4 inches taller. A Black janitor who'd worked at the university for 30 years questioned about stealing equipment he was hired to move. Every story became part of the federal case. Every victim got a chance to be heard, believed, validated. The systemic changes were real. The entire campus police department was disbanded and restructured with community oversight. 60% of officers were terminated for documented bias violations. New chief of police, a Black woman with 25 years of experience in community policing, mandatory. Bias training, not the performative kind, but real training with accountability, measures body cameras required at all times, with footage reviewed by civilian board community liaison positions, created and filled by Black faculty, and students' emergency response protocols that didn't default to. Armed officers for nonviolent calls, regular audits by external civil rights organizations, zero-tolerance policy for racial profiling with immediate termination. Other universities watched and panicked, started auditing their own departments, started finding the same patterns, started implementing changes before they became the next headline. That's the power of accountability. It ripples. Protagonist response. When national news asked Dr. Marlowe how she felt watching Mitchell and Davis sentenced, she didn't gloat. That's not who she is. Not who we are. I'm tired, she said, and her voice carried the exhaustion of 40 million Black Americans. I'm tired of proving I deserve to exist in spaces I've earned. Tired of the mental gymnastics, speak up and risk violence, or stay silent and accept disrespect. Tired of the talk I'll have to have with my nieces and nephews about how to survive interactions with police. Tired of adding names to a list that's already too long. She paused, composed herself. I'm tired of excellence being our only defense. I have 3 degrees, a federal badge, 20 years of impeccable service, and I still got thrown on the ground like a criminal. What about Black people without those things? What about the 19-year-old student who doesn't have FBI agents ready to rescue her? What about the janitor who doesn't have lawyers and national media? They deserve the same dignity I do. They deserve to exist without justifying their existence. But then her voice strengthened. That ancestral strength that carried her people through slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, mass incarceration, and every other system designed to break them. I'm not angry at Mitchell and Davis. I mean, I am. But I'm angrier at the system that made them feel entitled to treat me that way. I'm angry this happens every single day to Black people, without resources, without platforms, without cameras rolling. I'm angry we're still fighting for basic dignity in 2024. Still having conversations about whether Black lives matter. Still watching our children die for holding cell phones and wearing hoodies and existing in their own skin. She leaned forward, looked directly into the camera. But I'm hopeful. Because accountability changes behavior. Every officer who saw Mitchell get sentenced now knows there are consequences. Every university that saw us dismantle that police department now knows there's oversight. Every Black student who sees this story now knows their dignity is worth fighting for. If my experience, my trauma, my blood on that concrete stops this from happening to one other Black person, it was worth it. The interviewer asked one more question. Do you regret taking this sabbatical? Coming to this campus? Dr. Marlowe smiled. A sad smile. A knowing smile. I came here because I knew this was happening. Because Black students had been begging for help for years and being ignored. Because 17 complaints against one officer with no consequences meant systemic rot. I came here to expose it. Mission accomplished, just not the way I planned. She touched her cheek where the scar from the concrete would remain. This, she said, this is my receipt. Physical proof that racism isn't abstract, that it costs us blood, dignity, peace, But it's also proof that we survived. We always do. That's our superpower. We survive systems designed to kill us, and we still find ways to thrive. Resolution, where are they now? 18 months later, Dr. Keisha Marlowe, promoted to unit chief of the FBI's Civil Rights Program, published a book, Profiling the Profilers, Race, Power, and Policing in America. Consults with 43 universities on police reform. Keynote speaker at social justice conferences mentors young Black women entering law enforcement. Still teaches, now at Howard University, training the next generation of Black FBI agents, living her life with the same dignity she always had, refusing to let trauma define her scar. She calls it her badge of honor for Black women who refuse to shrink. Brandon Mitchell, currently serving year 3 of 9-year federal sentence, lost his house, his marriage, his pension. Became a cautionary tale in every law enforcement academy. Other inmates know why he's there. Former. Cops don't do well in federal prison. Multiple parole requests denied. Still maintains he didn't mean to hurt anyone. Misses the point entirely. Known nationally as that racist cop, whenever his name appears, his mugshot appears in diversity training presentations across the country. James Davis, serving year 2 of 5-year sentence, divorced, wife took the kids, changed their last name. Lost custody rights, judge cited pattern of poor judgment, cooperated with investigators, helped expose wider misconduct, testified against 6 other officers, expresses actual remorse. Whether genuine or strategic, unclear. Job prospects post-release, none. Midtown University, paid $47 million in settlements, overhauled entire public safety department, hired Dr. Patricia Johnson, Black woman. 25 years community policing. As new chief, implemented all recommended reforms, created endowed professorships in civil rights studies. Enrollment of Black students increased 34%. AMLES, feel SEF. Now considered a model for university police reform. Annual audits by external civil rights organizations. 0 racial profiling incidents in past 12 months. Systemic impact. 127 universities launched investigations into their campus police. Federal legislation introduced. The Campus Civil Rights Enforcement Act. DOJ created dedicated task force for university policing oversight. 43 officers at other universities terminated after pattern investigations. Insurance companies now require bias training and accountability measures. Civil rights organizations empowered with new enforcement tools. Black students and faculty have formal complaint processes with real teeth. The other victims, 17 people who'd filed complaints against Mitchell, received settlements. All have standing to sue university for ignoring their complaints. 3 wrote victim impact statements at Mitchell's sentencing. Their stories, finally believed, finally validated, became part of permanent records. Several became activists, using their experience to advocate for change. The student witnesses, Janelle, who picked up the transfer to criminal justice, inspired by Dr. Marlowe. 3 white students who remained silent, wrote about guilt and complicity in campus newspaper. Marcus Curie, promoted to director of campus security operations. Students organized annual Justice Week, commemorating the incident and demanding continued reform. The ripple effect. This story was told and retold. A case study in law schools, a training video in police academies, a rallying cry for Black communities tired of waiting for justice. A reminder that accountability is possible, but also a reminder that it shouldn't take an FBI badge for Black people to be treated with basic human dignity. Final thoughts. Here's what I want you to remember. Racism isn't just burning crosses and white hoods. It's not just slurs and hate crimes. It's the assumption that a Black woman in a blazer with a PhD doesn't belong on a university campus. It's the extra scrutiny, the double-down aggression when we assert our rights, the cuffs and the concrete and the knee in the back for the crime of existing. It's microaggressions that pile up until you can't breathe. It's 17 complaints ignored until a Black woman has to get brutalized on camera for anyone to care. It's a system that protects officers over citizens, whiteness over humanity, power over justice. For Black people watching, I see you. I see the exhaustion in your eyes when you read this story and recognize yourself in it. I see the way you code switch and shrink and calculate risk every time you leave your house. I see you teaching your children how to survive interactions that shouldn't be survival situations. I see you achieving excellence, not because you want to, but because you have to. Because mediocrity is a privilege you're not afforded. You deserve better. You deserve to exist without justifying your existence. You deserve to walk into buildings you're qualified to enter without proving you belong. You deserve to have bad days and make mistakes and be mediocre and still be treated with basic human respect. Your dignity is not negotiable. For everyone else, don't be Mitchell. Don't be Davis. Don't be the 17 people who filed complaints that were ignored. Don't be the chief who looked the other way. Don't be the white faculty who kept walking. Don't be the silent witnesses who recorded but didn't intervene. Be better. Question your assumptions about who belongs in spaces and why. Challenge yourself when you feel fear or suspicion around Black people existing. Speak up when you see injustice, not for credit, not for cookies, but because it's right. Use your privilege as a shield for those who have less, not as a weapon against them. Because underestimating Black people, that's a mistake you can't afford to make. We're doctors and agents and professors and parents. We're excellent and average and flawed and human. We're every single thing you are, just forced to prove it at a level you've never had to achieve. And when you profile us, when you brutalize us, when you assume we're criminals instead of colleagues, there are consequences now. Real ones. Federal ones. Career-ending, life-altering, justice-serving consequences. Dr. Keisha Marlowe walked across that quad as a federal agent investigating racism. She left it as a civil rights icon who dismantled a system. That's what happens when you underestimate Black excellence. That's what accountability looks like. Next week, a Black family moves into an exclusive neighborhood. The HOA president calls the cops claiming they're squatters. What she didn't know? They just bought her foreclosed house. You won't believe how this ends. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. These stories need to be told. End screen. Until then, respect costs nothing. Dignity isn't negotiable. And racism? In 2024, it comes with receipts and consequences. Peace.